There are various items to investigate. So this is the ancestry page. I've put the arrows on, so when you go on the website, you wouldn't see these. So this is my son because he's got a blue face. It says that this person's relationship to me is parent or child. I paid for the DNA test and I know he's my child, so that's fine. But he could have been my biological father, theoretically. It tells me how many centimorgans we share. When I first got my DNA test back, I didn't understand. I do now. So centimorgans are units of measurement. You can also see the person's ethnicity. So there's my Ireland and Wales, but it then reveals that this person has got Cameroon, Congo, Ghana, Nigeria. It hasn't got the word black, but it's got African countries. So that was very interesting, and I'll mention that later. You can also have a look at shared matches because my son matches me, but he also matches his sister and he also matches his brothers. So shared matches shows the people that you're in a bit of a triangle with. A good trick when you get your DNA test results back is to look at close relationships. So I know this is my son and I could really play around with me and his DNA. If it's a third cousin, I wouldn't be able to play around so confidently. In your handout, which you may not have yet, but your facilitator may well have sent it to you, or you could email me, don't forget, there is this consanguinity relationship chart. I can hardly say it, but it basically means here are some statistics for relationships. It's in your handout, but it's small, so Google it and download it to get it bigger. Basically, if you look at the red yourself, you are 50% of your children and you share approximately 3,400 centimorgans, or the little grains of sugar, remember. So if you get a second cousin match, that's a 3% match and you're going to share about 212 centimorgans. However, this person could equally be a granduncle or a grandaunt or a nephew or a second cousin. So bounce around in the consanguinity chart to have a look at the variety of options that this DNA match could be. Be open to a range of DNA matches. I was already alerted to this because my granddaughter biologically didn't share much more with me than my first cousin relationship. So when I first started out, found a DNA match who looked nice because he'd got a photo. So he'd got a photo, he'd got 600 and something people in his tree, and he, in inverted commas, looked nice. I messaged him, and actually, we had got the same second great grandparents in both of our trees. So what we can clearly see is that my biological father's line and his mum's line, both of us went back to the same great grandparents. So what I have done now is put this man in my tree. There's no point having DNA matches and thinking that's interesting. Put them in your tree. And the reason for that is that if I get anybody who also matches this person, Tom, that means that they can only go up this branch of the tree. So if I didn't have Tom in my tree, who I've never met, but I've emailed, he's now in my tree and he's a firm anchor point. He came up, even though he should be a third cousin, it was predicted that he was my fourth to sixth cousin. I could have easily ignored that. He then asked his mum and his brother, who were again given distant relationships to me, but his mum is my second cousin once removed. So she's the cousin of my biological father. So basically, an absolute gold dust find. On a different DNA site, which I've put my DNA on, is my heritage. And on my heritage, I got a close prediction, which was a first cousin once removed. How exciting was that? So they were either first cousin once removed, first cousin twice removed, or second cousin. So I sat on my lounge floor and jiggled around. And basically, it was revealed that this lady's great granddad was my biological grandfather. So again, I've put this person in my tree. So this lady, Michelle, I've now got in my tree. So do you remember the consanguinity chart that I just showed you? Well, MyHeritage do one for you. So this is really exciting. So it doesn't just say they might be your first cousin or they might be your second cousin. They've shaded them in. Can you see in the bottom right picture? So I am the dark lilac and the lady is the pale lilac. So my dark lilac could be related to her pale lilacs in this consanguinity chart. They've called it a relationship possibility. So I can then put her into my tree and use her as another anchor point. The reason being is that if I get a new match tomorrow and they also match Tom, they have to go up the same branch as me and Tom. If I get a new DNA match tomorrow and they don't match Tom, then I've got my work cut out. If I get a new DNA match tomorrow and they match Michelle, she's a first cousin once removed. So she's a really near relative apart from my children. So if I get a DNA match to Michelle, who is a first cousin, 100% I know which branch of the tree. So if you've got a DNA match, even if they are a dot, the tiniest dot of sugar in the metaphor, basically, if you get a DNA match, they and you have got a common ancestor. So you might have a massive DNA match, in which case the common ancestor isn't that far away. You might get a tiny DNA match, in which case the ancestor could be quite far away. And that's called MRCA, or most recent common ancestor. Through DNA matches, somebody sent me a photo of my biological great-grandfather who was fleeing the Irish potato famine. He came to Wales, married and had that little girl. The little girl turned into the lady with the hat. The lady with the hat married that thin-looking young man on the left. And he and his brothers were very badly injured in the war. And somebody sent me their studio portrait before they went to the war. And some other kind person sent me the worst photocopy in the world. I don't know if you remember photocopies. They were always grey, and dark grey. Anyway, sent me the worst photocopy in the world of the newspaper announcement of these people getting injured in the war. But I can now go to newspapers.com and have a look for some more details and get a better photo. But DNA matches have sent me the photos, the studio portraits, and the newspaper clippings. Other people don't reply, but the ones that do have sent me this lovely stuff. Let's now have a look at ethnicity inheritance. I was adopted. When I got my biological birth certificate, it said that my biological mother was from Wales, but I am 50% Welsh and 50% Irish. That implies that my biological father had Irish heritage. Interestingly, it doesn't directly come down to the children in the exact amounts that you would imagine. So although I've got 50-50, my children have got quite different amounts of the Irish and the Welsh in them. So imagine it's like a gumball machine. And 1 minute you get the colours red, pink, yellow and blue. And the next 10p that you put in, they come out blue, pink, green and orange. So ethnicity does seem to be random, but can't be invented. So these are my different ethnicity tests in my different websites. So Ancestry has got me as half Irish and half Welsh. Living DNA says Ireland 54, Wales 46. 23andMe says I am entirely British, but I have got regions of Cork, Kerry, London and Carmarthen, and my heritage says that I am 100% Irish, Scottish or Welsh. So the same picture is emerging. My children's ethnicities seem to vary quite a bit. So if we have a look at the Ireland, where I am 50%, one of my children has got 10% Irish and another child has got 30% Irish. With my Welsh, one child has got 29% and another child has got 41%. So these are massively different. And if you have tested a number of children, some dads can get quite annoyed if they see all these different ethnicities, because how is it that these ethnicities vary? But don't forget the gumball metaphor. So something that was really very interesting for me, I was really very, very excited that I'd got this Irish heritage. How amazing. I immediately, because I live in Bristol, got on an aeroplane, went for a little bit of a wander around Ireland. Wow, they invented the word green. Beautiful, 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 mesmerizing place. I was overjoyed, but I couldn't work out why did all these Irish people move to Wales? And my friend was mortified and said, Penny, they didn't move to Wales. They were fleeing the potato famine. So my euphoria at having this Irish in me was suddenly devastated. I've never even been hungry, let alone starving, let alone fleeing a famine and arriving dirty and dishevelled in another country and begging for work. My children, who were looking for the word black, found a lot of Nigerian in their DNA. Well, we thought that must be wrong because nobody's ever been to Nigeria. However, their granddad came with the Windrush generation from Jamaica. So this is an entirely Jamaican man, Jamaica born and bred, came in the 1960s, got a job and a load of racism, but basically 100% is from Jamaica. So what are the implications of that? Well, the implications of Nigeria in a Jamaican person is that this is evidence of slavery. No Nigerians were going on holiday to Jamaica and thinking, this is nice, I think I'll stay there. So this is evidence of slavery. And something that is very nice is that this can give my children a nod to their black ancestors when during censuses people were counted and gendered, nobody was given a name. Why bother putting these poor people's names into a census? So very disgustingly, if you've got enslaved ancestors, their names aren't even in the census. It just says their age and their sex. Really, really awful. So finding Nigerian DNA can give us the tiniest of respect that is due to those enslaved ancestors. However, my children are now a little bit flummoxed because are they English? Are they British? Are they Black British? Are they mixed race? Are they Jamaican? Are they Nigerian? So if you ask my children, where are you from? You're going to get a very confused answer. The exciting thing about ethnicity is some of the countries have got regions. So my DNA doesn't just come back as Ireland, it's come back as Munster. So there's no point me wasting time looking for relatives in Dublin or Belfast. I only need to look as far as Cork and Kerry. So with my due diligence, with my paper trail, my ancestors have come from Cork and Kerry. And my biology is Cork and Kerry. How exciting and amazing is that? You can then collaborate with other people who've got Cork and Kerry DNA. But the big thing is that I don't need to waste time with Northern or the Middle of Ireland paper trail. Something which is very helpful if you're not rich is that you can download your DNA from your testing site and upload it to other companies. All of the DNA testing companies will allow it, apart from Ancestry. So you can download your DNA from Ancestry. You can download your DNA from all of those websites, and then you can upload it to the others, usually for free. And those that do health testing, you might have to pay £10 or £20, but it's just a whole lot cheaper than buying a whole new DNA test. If you've got the money or you don't trust that, obviously you can buy the 5 main DNA tests, but that's amazing. So go into settings, scroll down to the very last bit, and it says download your DNA. You then save it to your computer with a sensible phrase like Penny's DNA or whatever, and then upload it for free to other DNA companies. They make their money because in a few weeks they'll encourage you to use their tools. I just ignore those emails, and I've got my DNA in 6 websites. You can also fish in a much bigger pool, which is called GEDmatch. I was overjoyed when I found out about that. So you can download your DNA from your testing site, save it, upload it to 5 or 4 other websites, but also to GEDmatch, which is a website which merges all of the others. Can you imagine? So I could be a DNA match to one of you tonight. You've done your DNA in Ancestry. I've done mine in MyHeritage. We're never going to meet. I could do a DNA test with living DNA, and I'm never going to match those of you who are in Ancestry. So basically, fish in all those pools, but 100% download your DNA and upload it to GEDmatch. Some people are a bit panicky about putting their DNA all over the place, but my doctor has got all of my thyroid test results, my weight, the hospital has got my placenta, the bank has got all my details, my sat nav knows where I drive, my Wi-Fi switches on and off. So basically, we are a ton of information. And for me personally, I'm not as worried as some people about putting my DNA into these things. Who on earth is cloning us? In GEDmatch, I have found 4 times the number of matches, loads of useful tools. Now I'm a bit cleverer with DNA. I can play with other tools. So I don't need to just make a cake. I can put a bit of icing on it. I could even, I don't know, make little columns or something. I might, set myself up as a wedding cake person. So I'm now at the stage where I can play with all of these tools. One of the columns is called 1 to many, and that gives you your descending DNA matches. The one that I find so exciting is 1 to 1. And basically, you can put in your GEDmatch reference number and somebody else and see how you compare. So if any of you have got a GEDmatch account, I could ask you, what's your GEDmatch number? And you would say, oh, I've got loads of relatives in Ireland. And then we could have a look and see if we match. There's also a whole column which predicts how many generations ago you matched with somebody. So if I matched with my children, there'd be the number 1. My children are 1 generation below me. My grandchildren would have the number 2. My grandchildren are 2 generations below me. So I've got some 2.9s and some 3.7s. What on earth is 2.9? Well, that means, let's call 2.93. That means me and a DNA match have a common ancestor 3 generations ago. Very excitingly, you can email these people because on the websites for DNA, a lot of people don't know there's a messaging system. And you can, if you want to get fancy, pay for some advanced features. All of the stuff on GEDmatch that I am able to use is free. I'm more than happy playing with all of those free tools. But if you are more accomplished, you can look at the advanced features. And on YouTube, there are videos that would help you make a start. So me and my daughter did a modelling day once. We don't normally walk around like this, but I just wanted to show you what a 1-to-1 looks like with my daughter. So this is me and my daughter, and you could say, oh, you two look alike. Well, we don't really, because don't forget she's mixed race. She's got brown eyes, I've got blue eyes. She's got full lips, full nose. Mine's smaller. I've got longer ears. She's got a V-shaped chin. There's nothing the same apart from we both got brown hair. Anyway, when we look on GEDmatch, it tells me this is your daughter because biologically she matches you on blah, 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 all of those. And if you look at the bottom, it says estimated number of generations to common ancestor. I am my daughter's common ancestor, so clearly there's a 1. In the old days, men would ask me, what's your phone number? Now they just ask me, what's your GEDmatch number? So I was in an Irish forum on Facebook, and this young man said to me about his Irish heritage in the village where my biological ancestors came from. So I said, wow, that is so exciting. Your ancestors came from the same village as mine. How amazing it would be if we were matches. So he said, give me your GEDmatch number. Anyway, so what we can see here, the reds mean something and the yellows mean something. I don't know what green means, but basically all of this information revealed that indeed we are a biological DNA match. And if I squeeze my eyes up, it says we match on chromosome 5.2 generations ago. Well, that's a massive amount of super sleuthing. So 5 generations ago. So that would be great something. So we kind of called it a day, but just to show you that this is information out there. However, another angle is that it gives you triangulation. So do you remember I said if anybody matches cousin Tom, then they have to go in that branch of my tree. And if anybody matches cousin Michelle, they have to go in that branch. Well, now I know that this man matches me 5 generations ago, but there's a column, not a column, a button that you can click, which is people who match both kits. So therefore, we're in a triangle with other people who also came from that village. And maybe somebody is 2 generations ago, common ancestors, so I could collaborate much better. You can also have a look at chromosome browsers. For those of you who are accomplished, this is very exciting on GEDmatch and MyHeritage, but GEDmatch in particular, and it's chromosome browsers. And this will give you the exact dot of DNA that you match. So, for example, if I went to Asda, I could get some milk. If I went to Morrison's, I can still buy milk, but it's not going to be from the same batch. So if I go and biologically test my Asda milk and I biologically test my Morrison's milk, yes, it's milk, but they've come from different farms. So that's the metaphor for chromosome browsers. If you want to go a bit further because you've found that you've got 200 or 9 million or whatever it is, centimorgans matching with somebody, you can go into DNA Painter. So this is me and a colleague and Johnny Pearl, who invented DNA Painter. So this is a whole website looking at the number of centimorgans that you match with somebody. So there's the 3 of us giving a talk last year in America at Roots Tech about being adopted. So me and the lady were talking about being adopted, and Johnny Pearl was talking about how to use his website. Anyway, on his website, you type in how many centimorgans you match somebody. I just randomly put in 192, and it gives you that consanguinity chart. Do you remember? And it lights it all up and gives you the average range of what this person could be. So it gives you possible relationships. Very, very useful. He's also got loads of videos and handouts. So a very useful website, DNA Painter.